Oh, he just came out and said it.
Federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen?
He knows he knows what he just said.
Hey, Stephen, can you hear me?
The one thing that I like about this administration is the fact that they always tell on themselves, whether it's an accufession, aka an accusation that is really a confession, or whether it's Stephen Miller admitting on live television that this administration thinks that the president has unlimited power. Checks and balances, forget about it. The supremacy clause, forget about it. I'm going to play the clip.
The reason why Stephen Miller froze up when he brought up plenary authority is because it's probably a little too early to be admitting that you are going to be ignoring any and everything all these judges say. It's also probably a little suspicious that you would bring up that the president fully plans on ignoring any judge's rulings in order to fulfill this plenary authority after we saw a judge in South Carolina have their house blown up for disregarding one of his orders.
Stephen Miller just slipped. On live TV, he just said the quiet part out loud that Trump has plenary authority. For anyone who doesn't speak legalese, plenary authority means absolute power. It's the idea that a president's authority is total and unchecked, and Miller wasn't talking about theory. He was defending Trump's power to deploy the National Guard anywhere without governors, without Congress, without any oversight.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, my beautiful people, wherever you are from. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your lovely host, Beryl. Guess what? We are at 264 subs. When I tell you I'm doing great, it's because of you. So, Stephen Miller, just let the quiet part out live on television, on live TV recording. He let the quiet, then he pretended to freeze like, ah, my goodness. The whole world was watching, America was watching, and they tore him apart for this. I want you to watch the whole video compilation of exactly what's going on. Stephen Miller had an interview, and then during that interview, he let the secret out. And then when he realized it, he pretended to be like this. Imagine, he pretended to freeze, and the whole America is watching. The world is watching now. We know. I mean, Africa and I already know, like. So, let me not waste much of your time. I want you to dive right into this and tell me what you think about it in the comment section. Like, why would he freeze? What will happen next? He let the cat out of the bag. Now America knows. Stay tuned. Let's watch more.
Thing that I like about this administration is the fact that they always tell on themselves, whether it's an accufession, aka an accusation that is really a confession, or whether it's Stephen Miller admitting on live television that this administration thinks that the president has unlimited power. Checks and balances, forget about it. The supremacy clause, forget about it. I'm going to play the clip where he not only slips up and says this, but then he pretends to be frozen and just shuts the fuck up and then tries to pretend like his internet connection dropped. Like, just what?
Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen?
In his earpiece, shut the fuck up!
Hey, Stephen, can you hear me?
Pretending he's frozen.
It seems, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue. We'll try to fix that.
What is plenary authority? Why was it such a big deal that Stephen Miller slipped up and said this? Well, according to the Cornell Law School website, plenary authority is power that is wide-ranging, broadly construed, and often limitless for all practical purposes. Limitless power. As the president of the United States of America, I don't think so. I don't think that's how it was supposed to work. But then again, In my own opinion, the Constitution of the United States of America was null and void on January 20th, 2025, when a constitutionally ineligible president was sworn in. See Section 3 of the 14th Amendment for more details. Not going to go into it. Honestly, this is much worse than I thought it was going to get. Truly, I at least thought that he would expire before it got this bad, but bro is still rotting away on this earth.
Oh, he just came out and said it.
Of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen?
He knows he knows what he just said.
Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seems, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue.
Plenary authority. Plenary authority. Remember that. That's what he's claiming. At least now we know that his fear response is freeze. And if you're not sure what plenary means, I gotcha. Complete in every respect. Absolute. Unqualified. No, not that type of unqualified. Though in that case, yes. What little SS Miller is claiming here is that Trump has complete unlimited control over the military to do with it what he pleases. No. And by the way, we need to make sure that this ends up in the hands of all the state's attorneys. They need to know for all their legal battles against the White House that someone from the White House and very high up in the administration is arguing plenary authority. And the funny thing is, he immediately realizes he messed up. This whole technical difficulty thing does not make sense. That's not what happened here. Little SS Miller was talking completely uninterrupted, said a word, and then froze. By the way, if you needed any more confirmation about the brain power behind this hate, if the audio had just cut out, he would have had no idea because he was the one talking. If he started getting a different audio issue, maybe like a weird noise or interference, he would have said that, or at least any normal human being would have said, I'm getting a weird noise. This was little SS Miller realizing immediately that he really, really stuck his foot in it. He said the quiet part out loud. One commenter even suggested that perhaps he had been rehearsing this argument to roll out at a later date. And I think that that might not be far off. Maybe it wasn't so much rehearsal, but it's clear that this is language that slipped out because that is how he's viewing it and how he's talking about it. They are prepared to claim complete, unlimited authority to do whatever he wants with the military. Wake up. By the way, if you wanted any confirmation of why AI overviews or tech companies are not your friends, when I went to pull up US Code Title 10, which by the way, everyone should download before they try anything sneaky, it was clear people had been looking this up because the top suggested search was US Code Title 10 plenary authority. I clicked to see what people were being served up. And sure enough, in the AI overview, it says that while the US Code does not explicitly use the term plenary authority, instead it defines the authority of the president to call members and units of the National Guard into federal service to suppress rebellion, repel invasion, or execute federal laws, which is a form of broad or plenary power over military forces. And I think it's important that we understand what's happening here because too many people are relying on these AI overviews and ChatGPT, which by the way, you should never go to for factual answers. Plenary does not mean broad. Some people may use it that way, but it means unqualified. Absolute. And by definition, even according to this AI overview, the fact that the powers are defined and limited to specific circumstances makes them not plenary. That qualifies them. Now, can you debate exactly how broad those powers are under those specific circumstances? Sure, and they are. This is also not the only place in our legal code where these powers are defined or limited. Lastly, by the way, even if we were to just look at this statute, even if he calls the National Guard into federal service to quote unquote quell rebellion, quote, orders for these purposes shall be issued through the governors of these states. And guess what? Governors, while they have to follow federal law, cannot be compelled to follow a presidential order because we have something called the anti-commandeering doctrine. It's part of that little states' rights thing. Basically, the principle is that the federal government cannot take over or commandeer a state government to use it as part of the federal government. Ojo, or oye, as it were. It's called a doctrine because this is Supreme Court interpretation of our Constitution. The idea that commandeering would violate the structure of federalism, which means, and yes, you already see where this is going, that the Supreme Court could in fact decide to walk that back. However, this still doesn't give the president plenary powers over the military. The good news, if you can call it that, is that number one, this isn't surprising that this is their goal. Number two, if attorneys are made aware of this, at least they can start preparing their arguments against this language that's obviously going to start being rolled out as part of some argument or another very soon. The third bit of good news is I figured out what Stephen Miller sounds like. First, what you gotta understand is that because he's trying to come off as tough and he's a widow baby, he's in a perpetual pout when he talks like this. Number two, you gotta understand that he's a California boy, so you gotta place that pout on one of the characters from SNL's The Californians. I'm totally taller than 4'10". Oh, and the last bit of good news is I'm fairly certain he had to go change his pants after that interview.
The reason why Stephen Miller froze up when he brought up plenary authority is because it's probably a little too early to be admitting that you are going to be ignoring any and everything all these judges say. It's also probably a little suspicious that you would bring up that the president fully plans on ignoring any judge's rulings in order to fulfill this plenary authority after we saw a judge in South Carolina have their house blown up for disregarding one of his orders. The reason why he froze is because they are trying to get this agenda put in place without explicitly saying it. Because if they explicitly say it, they can be held liable for it. And if they can be held liable for it, this will turn the gears of everybody in our legal system that is willing to stand up to them and stop them. Now we will probably see more judges ruling to slow down all of this National Guard stuff. More judges that he appointed too. Because now they have said straight up, we're going to break the law. And we're going to use the military against American citizens. We have the power. We are going to use that power, and we don't expect anybody to stop us. But see, if they rolled this out incrementally, as tensions were rising in these cities where they are upping the military action, if they rolled this out step by step and perhaps fell into a situation where somebody did something that whatever gave them the justification, that's one thing. Now, everybody will be looking for the justification that they're going to use to get the military out there. This really does mess up their plans. And the reason why they're fumbling this bag so much right now is because, like I said, all these people talking about Project 2025 being 50% done. Okay, yeah, that's all well and good. Project 2025 was supposed to be 100% done by now. If you read it, they were supposed to have everything sewn up in less than 180 days. That is 6 months or less. We are coming up on 10 months now. And the longer it takes for them to get this figured out, the closer we get to midterm elections. And now it's starting to look like more people in the government are going to be protecting these elections moving forward. And this regime does not like that. This regime is quite literally looking for any excuse they can to stop a future election from happening. So that's why we all need to be paying attention to what happened with Stephen Miller. We all need to be very, very aware of the fact that he brought up plenary authority. Because most people probably never heard of it before he said something. Now the cat's out of the bag and they're in trouble.
Miller's McConnell gets even better. Because you know what's even more fun than watching Miller engage his freeze response? Watching him engage in fight and flight, all within 10 minutes of each other. If you don't know what I'm talking about, see my previous video. Because yes, they came back after resolving the technical difficulties. And by the way, I do want to correct the record because Boris Sanchez, the host, caught some flack in the last video for saying, oh, it looks like we've got some technical difficulties. Because Sanchez delivers a masterclass in how to push back on the lies. He does not let him get away easy. And you can tell it's working because, oh boy, does little Miller start to squirm. This is also, by the way, the clip that CNN shared online. They cut out the plenary bit and the technical difficulties part. Also, I'm sorry, but I'm going to have to include my commentary so that it's like fair use.
The question was whether the administration still plans to abide by that judge's order restricting any National Guard troops from being sent to Oregon.
Well, the administration will abide by the ruling.
It's worth noting that the first time he was asked this question, he did not say that they would.
But there are also many other options the president has to deploy federal resources and assets under the U.S. military to Portland. But I was making the point that under federal law, Section Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has the authority anytime he believes federal resources are insufficient
not
to federalize
plenary
the National Guard
authority.
to carry out a mission
Interesting that he left that word
safety.
out this time.
So it's important to understand that in Portland, ICE officers have been subjected to over 100 nights of terrorist assault, doxing threats, violent attack, and every other means imaginable to try to overturn the results of the last election through violence. The most important point I want to make today is that the number one
trying to make this about overturning
in 2024 were to turn back the border invasion and carry out the largest deportation program.
They didn't have a platform, by the way.
Since Inauguration Day, there's been an orchestrated campaign of terrorism and violence against ICE officers. Of course, we saw the recent sniper attack against ICE officers. They're publishing their families' photos online. They're threatening them with death. And they're physically attacking them in the street each and every day. And yet, shamefully, the mayor and governor in Portland and Oregon have refused to render aid, leaving ICE officers to street fight every single night against these terrorists.
Street fighting.
You make the claim of terrorist assaults and violence attack over 100 nights, and yet the judge overseeing this case says that that's untethered from reality. And local officials on the ground say that Trump's assertion of what's happening in Portland, that it's war-ravaged and burning to the ground, is far from true. I looked at the police data, and police have made something like 70 total arrests since June, and there are no reports of buildings being burned to the ground.
Thank you.
The White House cited a guillotine being rolled out.
I'm sorry. Were there not gallows
but there
rolled
out actually a threat that these demonstrators are going to overthrow the government?
On a cool
Are
January
you concerned that response weakens your legal argument?
No, they are actually, as we speak, trying to overthrow the core law enforcement function of the federal government.
Using that word again,
of course, I think we're talking past each other. When ICE officers have to street battle against Antifa, hand-to-hand combat every night to come and go from their building. When they try to exit in a vehicle, when they are swarmed and surrounded and they try to tip the vehicle over. where people bring weapons to an ICE facility to try to engage.
Stephen Miller just slipped. On live TV, he just said the quiet part out loud, that Trump has plenary authority. For anyone who doesn't speak legalese, plenary authority means absolute power. It's the idea that a president's authority is total and unchecked, and Miller wasn't talking about theory. He was defending Trump's power to deploy the National Guard anywhere, without governors, without Congress, without any oversight. And that single phrase, plenary authority, cuts right to the heart of what our founders feared most. They fought a war to escape a king with plenary power. They built a constitution that divides power precisely to prevent it. The president commands the military under civilian law, under Congress, and under the people. When Miller invokes plenary authority, he's not citing American tradition. He's citing authoritarian tradition. That's the language of rulers who believe the Constitution is a suggestion and not a restraint. The founders didn't bleed to crown another monarch in the future. They wrote checks and balances to ensure no man, no matter how loud, rich, or vengeful, could claim plenary control over free people. The founders warned us that the greatest threat to liberty would come draped in patriotism, preaching power without limit. Stephen Miller just confirmed they were right.
Wow, Stephen Miller absolutely did not have a glitch on live TV. Okay, he had an oh shit moment where he said something that he fucking was not supposed to say. Check this out, and then I will explain after.
You've called the district judge's ruling blocking the deployment of National Guard in Oregon legal insurrection. Does the administration still plan to abide by that ruling?
Well, the administration filed an appeal this morning with the Ninth Circuit. I would note the administration won an identical case in the Ninth Circuit just a few months ago with respect to the federalizing of the California National Guard. Under Title 10 of the U.S. Code, the president has plenary authority.
Stephen? Stephen? Hey, Stephen, can you hear me? It seems, Stephen, I apologize. It seems like we're having a technical issue.
Anyways, yeah, so you can see, clearly not a glitch. You can see Stephen Miller's body move, and you can still see him blinking. Let's talk about what he said right before he froze, okay? He said plenary authority. It sounds like he was tripping on his words right before he glitched, but he was not. That's an actual thing, okay? Let me tell you what it means right now. Plenary authority is the full, complete, and absolute power to act on a specific matter without any limitation. With him acknowledging Project 2025 and deploying the National Guard to all these cities, he said the quiet part out loud and then was like, oh shit, I shouldn't have said that. I don't think I was supposed to say that. A lot of you guys don't seem to grasp the reality of the situation. Anyways, that being said, I hope you have a wonderful day and you are all safe and happy.
Stephen Miller just slipped up so bad on national TV that he stopped talking, freaked out, refused to speak, and he froze. They had to cut the program. That man looked scared shitless because you just know someone is in his ear being like, what the fuck did you just say? Did you seriously just say that on TV? So he stopped speaking. He doesn't know what to do. At this moment, the guy is his fucking pants. Now, plenary authority, for those of you who don't know, it means complete, uncontrolled, and unchecked power, and he's stating that under Title 10, that's what the president has. That's simply not true. Nowhere in any circumstances does a U.S. president have plenary authority. It's what he fantasizes. He's only stating it because this is exactly what he wants the president to have, which obviously, no shit, from what we saw at the Charlie Kirk Memorial, his speech, he creams at the idea of unchecked power. I mean, that's what these people want. It's pretty bad. My name is Mercedes Chandler. This was interesting to see. I mean, I've never seen Stephen Miller brick up like that.
This is Stephen Miller, and he's going viral because, well, he's Trump's advisor, and he's kind of a problem. And he's been talking about, white supremacy, his favorite topic. But we're going to bring it back to him in high school when he had a problem with, well, trash.
Am I the only one who is sick and tired of being told to pick up my trash? And we have plenty of janitors who are paid to do it.
Now we're going to fast forward to modern day era where, everybody went to this guy's funeral. And I can't say his name because, well, the algorithm and they don't like us saying his name. We're talking negative about him because they love to silence us, right? Yet they're not dictators. But they went to his funeral, and this is the scenery at that funeral. Trash everywhere, walking around it, stepping on it, didn't care. Even police officers who they love are picking it up. Not the janitors that Steven said they wanted to pick it up. That's how we know every projection is a confession. Everything they say somebody else is doing, they're the ones that do it. So before you get a little infuriated by this guy, just know who they really are. Doses.
So Stephen Miller today tried to pull off his best impersonation of Mitch McConnell when he froze up on TV.
Stephen?
froze up at the exact moment when he said that a president has plenary authority. And if you don't know what plenary authority means, it just means total power that's unchecked, pretty much without limits and checks and balances. And Stephen Miller saying the quiet part out loud made his brain go into airplane mode. And what I will say about Stephen Miller is that he has plenary authority over making people uncomfortable, and plenary authority over that receding hairline. And I genuinely feel like we got to real-time see a person's brain buffer while their face did a hard reboot. And personally, I'm not a religious person, but I believe that was probably divine interventioning happening on real-life TV, because God heard where that sentence was heading and decided to pull his Ethernet cable. So Steven, next time you decide to come on TV and say the quiet part out loud on Glitch, you should probably just have Mitch McConnell come on TV and do it for you.
You know, sometimes the truth doesn't slip out by accident. It slips out because it's been sitting right there just waiting for someone bold or careless enough to say it. Recently, during an interview, Stephen Miller, yes, that's Stephen Miller, the one who helped shape some of the most extreme immigration policies in modern history, was asked about this current administration. And he said something that should have shaken the entire nation. He said the president has plenary authority. And then he froze. Not because the camera froze, not because of bad internet. He froze because he realized what he had just said out loud. That word plenary means complete, absolute, without limitation. So when he said that the president has plenary authority, he was literally saying the president's power should not be questioned, not by Congress, not by the courts, not by the people. And for anyone who still doubts that we are living under authoritarianism, that was a quiet part said out loud. Now, let's talk about what happens when a nation accepts that kind of language. When plenary authority becomes a political talking point instead of a constitutional warning, we begin to see the erosion of balance, the unraveling of the three branches of government that were meant to keep one another in check. We see it when judges are targeted for doing their jobs, like the federal judge who refused to hand over voter registration data, and soon after, her house was burned to the ground. We see it when elected officials, Democratic representatives, are unalived for standing their ground, and the response from leadership is silence. We see it when conservative men commit violence, even murder, against teenage girls for having a difference of opinion online, and the system doesn't respond with the same urgency it would if the roles were reversed. And through it all, we are told to stay calm, to keep trusting the process, to believe that the institutions will hold. But what if they already haven't? What we are witnessing isn't chaos. It's choreography. It's a careful dismantling of accountability, the normalization of impunity, and it's being hidden beneath fancy words like plenary authority. See, authoritarianism doesn't always come with tanks in the street. Sometimes it comes wrapped in flags and scripture, handed down through talking points, spoken softly enough to sound like patriotism, but loud enough to rewrite the meaning of freedom. And that's what Stephen Miller did. He revealed the truth about what's happening, not just in policy, but in principle. When someone in proximity to power says, the president has plenary authority, they are saying the president answers to no one. This administration is beyond the law. This is not a democracy, it's a throne. And the chilling part is, he meant it. Now the question becomes, how do we get out of it? How do we push back when systems that are supposed to protect us have been hollowed out from the inside? How do we respond when the courts, the Congress, and the Constitution itself are being treated like suggestions? The answer isn't found in waiting for a hero. The answer is in becoming one. We get out of it by refusing to normalize silence. We get out of it by rebuilding local power by voting, organizing, and defending truth like our lives depend on it, because they do. We protect the judges who still have integrity. We defend the journalists who are still telling the truth. We amplify the whistleblowers who risk everything to expose corruption. We invest in community power, because every era of authoritarianism has ended the same way, not through permission, but through people who decided enough is enough. And most importantly, we must reclaim language, because words create worlds. If they can use plenary authority to justify tyranny, then we can use constitutional power, collective action, and moral resistance to restore democracy. When Miller froze, he wasn't glitching. He was revealing he realized that he had said what many in this administration have been thinking all along, that the law no longer applies to them, that accountability is optional, and that the people's voice is secondary to the will of one man. But here's the truth. They don't want to admit. No matter how much power one man holds, no matter how loud the propaganda gets, a nation's spirit cannot be ruled by decree. Because power without legitimacy is temporary. And authoritarianism, like every system built on fear and lies, eventually collapses under the weight of its own arrogance. So yes, Stephen Miller said the quiet part out loud. But now it's time for us to speak the loud part back, to say we are not subjects to plenary power. We are citizens of a republic, and we will not be ruled by silence, fear, or intimidation. We will resist, we will rebuild, and we will remember that democracy is not inherited, it's defended. Every generation, every time someone says the president has plenary authority, we must answer, no, the people do.
Stephen Miller hasn't exactly had the best 24 hours, and if you're like me, we all need a laugh, especially at that motherfucker.
The president has plenary authority.
Stephen?
In case you don't know what plenary authority means, it's unchecked absolute power without any limitations. When he said it out loud, he said the quiet part way out loud, and he didn't know what to say, so his brain just shut the fuck down. This clip is even funnier because Lori Ingram decided to make Stephen Miller watch AOC mocking him.
He looks like he is angry about the fact that he's 4'10". And he looks like he is so mad that he is 4'10", that he's taking that anger out at any other population possible. Like, laugh at them. Laugh at them.
Like, laugh at them. Laugh at them. I wish I had a hoodie on. I mean,
Stephen Miller's fucking face, grimacing, like trying to play it off, was fucking amazing. Also, Laura Ingram, you don't have a hoodie on, but you have a hood on, just like Stephen Miller has a hood on, just like all the fucking MAGA and the fucking leadership has a hood on. It's just one of those big, white, pointy ones.
Did you see this?
The president has plenary authority.
Stephen?
Shit. Did I just say plenary out loud?
Stephen?
Don't move. Don't blink. Maybe no one knows that plenary means complete and absolute power to do whatever the hell we want.
Stephen?
I wish I was taller.
He looks like he is angry about the fact that he's 4'10".
Steven the Keebler Elf. Steven the Keebler Elf.
Hey, Stephen, can you hear me?
Steven the Keebler Elf. No. No. Fuck, I blinked. You know that move, right? The old fascist Freudian slip and then freeze frame. No one will notice. Thoughts?
Beautiful people, if you're new here, please don't go anywhere. Subscribe. You've watched the video compilation of what Steve Miller did. Stephen Miller. He's one of the most controversial figures for Trump's inner circle. The inner circle. And he just exposed himself on national television. He tried to say something slick, but what came out? What came out? The quiet part came out, and that is the truth. And when he realized he said too much, he froze. Like, you've seen it, right? He froze. He pretended his screen was glitching. But who can be fooled? During COVID, we learned all the tricks, right? We know when someone is pretending. America, do not be fooled, even just for a second. Do not be fooled. Yeah, Stephen, nice try. People are saying that, but technical difficulties act doesn't work when millions are watching. Millions are watching him say that, then he froze. Like, he's so dramatic. Oh my goodness. So let's rewind this moment, because the right here shows you exactly what you really think about democracy, race, and why they believe this country belongs to, and who they believe it belongs to. So on live television, Stephen Miller slipped into full mask mode. He started ranting about protecting the right of America, then caught himself in a mid-sentence. The host looked stunned as in shocked. The internet has gone wild. If you see me doing this commentary, no, it has gone nuts. Okay? And within minutes, clips were flying all over X, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. People called it out for what it was. A racist dog whistle. Just as plain as that. That is what people called it. A racist dog whistle. Yeah. You had it right. That's what they're calling it. So America's flooded the comments section by asking all sorts of questions because they didn't believe what they just had. Did he really say that? He said the quiet part out loud, and they weren't holding back. They came after him after shots in the comment section without holding back. See, this isn't just about one man messing up on television. This is a reflection of the mindset that's been messing us. That this is just something that he kept You see how much you've always wanted to share that secret. Then maybe it just slips out when you're talking during a conversation. And then you're like, did I just say that? That's exactly what's going on. Yep. So Stephen Miller did the same thing. He said the honest truth, the brutal truth, and America is furious. Not only America, the whole world is shocked. So this is a reflection of the mindset that has been shaping the US politics for years. Stephen Miller didn't misspeak. He revealed something, right? That deep down they fear the Americans that's changing, diversifying, and demanding equality. People are scared of this new America. And the funniest part, after pretending to freeze, he tried to act like nothing happened. He wanted to continue with another thing like, what happened? What happened? Yeah, but the internet never forgets. That is one thing we need to know. The internet never forgets. That 3-second oops moment turned into a national disaster, a national roast. People clipped it, memed it, and touched him online. He was not having a good day, I'm so sure. So Stephen Miller wanted to hide the truth, but he ended up showing us exactly who he is and what they stand for. Because every time they sleep, America wakes up a little more. I hope they do, because this government is making the United States go through so much shege. And when we see the truth, we get to choose the right decisions, right? So I hope next time you MAGA voter, America is no longer great, because such leaders, they need to be checked. I understand human beings are prone to make mistakes. It's normal. But let me ask you. Please do not forget to subscribe my channel. That is my question. What are you doing here if you haven't subscribed? What are you doing here? Go back and subscribe. You know you wanted to watch the Stephen Miller video again and comment. I know you do. I know you have something to say, because I have just paraphrased it. I haven't talked deeply on exactly what he said and how America is reacting. Like, why would you, a leader, a representative, an inner circle of DT, it's gonna be fire, fire, fire. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. Please take care of yourself. Have a lovely week. Please subscribe. We'll do it 500 at least this week. Take care of yourself. I love you, and bye.